All right, welcome back to another episode of Cameo, the only Camus-based podcast that focuses on Camus that I'm aware of. And if you know of others, let me know. I'm sitting across from Graig Burns. I believe it's said it right. He spells it a little bit differently. And
with a grr. Greg man. Grr man.
And we just met. Greg reached out a little while back as he's part of a initiative that's working to put together a street rag, which, you know, I haven't told him this, but I've been involved in the production of a friend's street rag before in Toronto. I met him and he actually made money from it, selling it, and that was his income as a homeless person. So much so that he actually sold an addition to Paris Hilton once. He was very proud of that. And then I tried to start I called it a street rag, but really a newspaper at Camus This Week back in 2014 or 2015 called Type. That was supposed to be a little bit edgier, and it lasted 3 issues. But you're taking a whole different approach, more like the former street rag that I tried way back in the day, where you're going to be working with people of various walks of life to share their stories. So tell a little bit of where the funding's coming from, the program you got accepted to, and the vision that they accepted.
Okay, the magazine is called The Big Edition, and for a nickname, it's The Big E. We've done that in honor of our deceased general editor, Elmer King, who passed away suddenly, and I don't consider myself worthy to fill his boots, but nonetheless, I'm the layout design IT guy, so I kind of have to edit.
Okay. And so Big E, was this initially his project that you've taken over then?
It's a shared project of the Lived Experience Committee for those who've been homeless or formerly homeless. And it's under the umbrella of the Elizabeth Fry Society. So we are operating as an extension of a nonprofit. If we get donors, they can get a tax-deductible receipt. It is considered a social enterprise in that we are launching a potentially profitable magazine, but it's also got a social impact, a social value, and a social agenda.
Yeah, so the actual creation of the content for your magazine and the distribution of the content in your magazine, if I'm correct, you're going to be working with the people living with issues of homelessness. Is that correct?
That's a great part of it. It's a lifestyles, culture, arts, entertainment magazine with social commentary.
Okay.
So we are trying to be a reflective monthly magazine. So our goal is to have deeper backstories than you get on the 6 o'clock news, which I think at this time nobody's really happy with immediacy of the internet because we don't get a lot of meat in our stories. We get a lot of hints, rumors, surface stuff. But the Big Edition wants to be a reflective magazine that really gives readers in-depth reporting. We're trying to be old-fashioned journalism, such as existed in the 50s, and yet current to today's immediate marketplace where everybody's... they've all got the news at their fingertips, just one thumb.
Yeah.
And yet there's so little fact to it. So...
Well, working for a news organization myself, I'm very proud of our journalist team and the work they do.
Yes.
But I guess what I'm trying to understand is what is the content that you're going to be writing about in this? Like, is it a street rag or is it a social commentary rag? Like, where do you guys fit in? And if I pick it up, name 5 styles of articles I might end up reading.
Okay, so I hope I didn't give the impression I'm critical of the newspaper.
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
I consider it high-quality journalism. I know several reporters there that really dig and are old-fashioned journalists.
They all are. I can attest to that.
So I'm more perhaps critiquing the 6 o'clock snooze hour where you get Trump's latest word salad off
The
the top
the
nut
pop
of the fruitcake.
the pop news.
Yeah, and so you say 5 areas.
Yeah, like give me some
Okay.
examples of what sort of articles am I going to reading that I'm missing in other news
Yeah,
sources.
we want to blow people's minds. One is the challenge match. It will represent the imagery of the challenge map is a two-page spread with a boxing motif, and the presentation will be a left page and a right page, a left wing take and a right wing take, and they will duke it out in a debate.
Okay. So
it'll
you want to be like the cross section of kind of political ideologies in town in a little bit.
We want to represent them and let them have their say.
Okay.
So we will do very little editing unless there's violence involved. Our only censorship will be if somebody's threatening to hurt somebody, right?
Okay, I get
if
it.
somebody's being vulgar in a fashion that is not family friendly, we'll obviously edit the content. But you will be allowed to have your say. We've got one fellow, he's apparently dying to post articles. He runs the Communist Party. And I love communists. I don't like their ideology. But usually their heart's in the right place. And if you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, he's so Canadian that we want to just duct tape him to a chair and kidnap him to Canada and let him run here, right? So the socialists, I think, have been underrepresented. Labor has been underrepresented in media. And people that care about issues such as homelessness, medical care, family values, family issues, what happens when you lose your kids.
Okay, so I think I was wrong thinking of what your magazine's going to be, because I thought it was initially going to be mostly a homeless focused thing, but you're talking broader themes.
Yeah, like
you really want to be, and I'm using this analogy a lot lately, is you want to be like the crossroads of the new and the old, the left and the right, the good and the bad.
Well, and not to be expropriating anybody's voice, but we would like to be the people's voice.
Yes.
And if the people want to speak, they are so ignored. And we can look at bureaucracy, leadership, spin doctoring is a very big problem right now, because how do you get to the real story behind the news when it's been strategically spun to manipulate you into informed consent? It's like, it's no longer informed consent when it's manufactured.
Yeah. I'll agree with you to a degree. I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about the media, they're often talking about the American media, which unfortunately ends up on our television channels. I'm not susceptible to it because I don't have television, and I will never pay for cable. I've made that very clear to my wife, right? So I think we're in a funny, really funny point where, like, I remember in 5th grade, of my teacher saying, guys, you need to be careful of what you put on the internet, what you say on the internet.
Yes.
And now we're at this point where, like, the same classmates, like my parents aren't online, they're not on Facebook, but the same classmates that I went with, parents are then perpetuating these factual, inaccurate things, right? So we're in this really, really strange world where the people who warned us, or warned literally my generation, are the ones now becoming the spin doctors or being the products of the spin doctoring that you're describing.
Well, what I'm getting at, it's not so much a critique of local media or news media in general. It's that Donald Trump got on television and said we are in a post-fact era.
That's terrifying.
The leader of the quote-unquote free world has said facts don't matter. Now, facts can be tools. Facts can be weapons. And, for instance, you can count trees and find out how many are left. But if you only do a representative study of an acre of good forest and the rest of the mountain is clear-cut, you don't have any facts. So what we want to do is be reflective, in depth, and behind the scenes. And as I mentioned, the challenge match really is representative of what we hope this magazine can be.
Yes.
I'm debating whether to add an extra section called the rowboat match, which is more politically right-wing, left-wing. But the challenge match is the essence of what letting people speak can bring us to. I've been a member of debating clubs in the past, and when debate is done well, it can actually be a method to learn truth.
Okay.
When debate is done poorly, it's a method to manipulate. And we had my buddy was in a debating club, and they had a fellow that always used to say, according to Smith, this is so and so. And nobody ever challenged him, who is Smith? And my buddy asked him after 20 years, who is Smith? And he goes, well, there is no Smith, but they bought it. So, we could quote anybody, according to Trump, according to Barack Obama, according to Saddam Hussein. But checking the facts, verifying the story, and we want to name our sources unless they need anonymity.
Okay.
We're going to do a certain amount of posting under pen names because we hope to introduce issues that people are afraid to talk about.
So, yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
That's the part I want to do with my podcast. I ran into a young fella downtown. I'm sure you've seen him. He's going around picking up trash and gave him a little bit. I respected his hustle for picking up trash, right? He, and I'd like to chat with him, right? And if he is willing to chat with me, it's just his voice, right?
You learn something, both of you.
Yeah, he I don't even need to share his name if he doesn't want to, right? Unfortunately, I've kind of given him away a little bit by what he's doing right now, but there's that ability to protect and share and the really valid stories.
Yes.
Without always having to tie someone's name to it, right? I think there's always needs to be a level of responsibility of taking ownership. Like if someone's willing to meet me in person and look me in the eye and tell me their story, I'll protect who they are, right? And I guess you're going along the same vein of that. Outside of the political spectrum of what you're trying to accomplish, what other sort of avenues of I don't want to say journalism, more documenting, I think, would be a safer way, right? I think of this as a documenting of our conversation, and you're looking to document people's opinions and whatnot. What other avenues are you trying to take the magazine in?
Well, of course, our launch will be August, September, election season in October. And
the Kameo Civic election, as well as, I guess that's the midterms almost.
Yeah, so it's a local election. There are a lot of names on the ballot, apparently 22 for 2 positions or 3 positions. And again, we want to be reflective because everybody's got access to the Twitter. Everybody's got access to the 15-second soundbite.
Yeah.
Right? I met a guy the other day that's running. I'm going to do a feature on him, as I'm offering to do to everybody, because we want all the politicians to get a chance to speak. Why is he in it? What motivates him? We're all going to hear the campaign platforms. In this case, he's just participated in a needle cleanup, and they got 650 needles.
You're talking about Dennis...
Bob. I don't remember his last name. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I got his card. We're going to have a formal interview. And they offered little perks to people that would pick up needles. And one guy brought in 650.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Yeah.
At 5 cents a piece,
Yeah.
That's that instead of a pop can, or
Yeah.
I guess as a beer can is 5 cents, right?
Well, and this kind of thing opening up economic ideas. For instance, a friend of mine is scheming a homeless shelter, and he's writing up a budget and says it'll cost $2,000 a month per resident to give him a bedroll and a pillow, to give him a place. It's coordinated with another charity that can provide a free lunch.
Mm-hmm.
$2,000 a month, I could live on $1,500 quite nicely. Like,
I would challenge that completely myself.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have a challenge match right now,
Yeah.
because I know a single bedroom, that's $900, right?
So
if you're able to find a room, maybe that's $500,
it's
right?
a case of the economics of the process. And why does a hospital bed cost, what is it, $800 a night? Like, you and me go, I could rent a hotel for $150. What's going on there? Well, the infrastructure and the existence of the institution, and particularly the homeless shelter with our experience with Stuart Woods, they had to have a lot of bureaucracy to give people a bedroll and a pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this kind of thing needs to be publicly debated. I would love to see the economics put into a business plan and guys like you to go at it. And if you're going to pay $2,000 a month to give a guy a bedroll and a pillow, why don't you get him to pick up trash? Pay him $2,000 a month to pick up toxic needles. Give him the training. And there's all kind of things economically that could be done to make this a more cohesive community.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I have to say that at that point, it always comes down to motivation, right?
Yeah.
I approached someone the other day and said, "Hey, man, I got a spare shirt in the car. Do you want it? Looks like yours is ripped, dirty, tattered, and doesn't fit." No, he's good.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all even if you offer a solution, right, which in your head is a solution, they don't see it as one. Right?
Well, and we got to get into the causes of homelessness. We got to redefine it. It's been said that everybody that doesn't have their name on a lease or own property is homeless. So if you have an informal rental agreement where you're paying cash by the month and your landlord can neglect the duties, can make it substandard slumlord, and you could be evicted at any time without notice, that's homeless. And if we had that, when we did the point in time count recently, we got 190 homeless souls. Stuart Woods had 350, and they were individual souls, not repeat users.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you so much. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's totally okay.
But
That's,
the reality of homelessness is they're with us, and council doesn't seem to want to look at this right now. We are, as members of the LEC or of the magazine, we've been trying to raise the issue at various functions, and we're always told this is not a topic for discussion at this meeting at this time.
Well, I think there's always two ways to approach stuff, right? Is yell at someone to, hey, fix this, or you start and do it yourself, right? And that's kind of how I'm viewing your magazine initiative, right? Is okay, well, we can make our voices heard, and we can do something, start at the grassroots, and maybe we're only reaching 3 people, but we know the first issue is going to reach 30,000 homes,
yeah.
right? Because you've created that distribution model, right? I'm sick and tired of Kamloopians complaining and not actually doing anything, right?
So we complain. We're busy. We're trying to make ends meet. We have limited resources and time.
Totally. I totally get limited resources and time. But if you're going to complain, please present a solution, which I think you guys have. Right?
That complaining is the low-hanging fruit.
Yes,
it's
right.
Like, I can complain.
I can complain, but I don't want to put my complaints into action, which could result in something, right? And so I'm still undecided if the needle buyback program is something I want to see in my town, and that's coming from someone who's an alcoholic, who's an admitted addict of sorts, right? I can get addicted to anything. I don't know if I support the needle buyback program or not, but I can't disrespect the fact that they're doing something.
Well, the whole harm reduction issue is going to be a big election issue. People are sick and tired of the apparent flaws in harm reduction as a strategy right now. Mainly, 2 people have died in association with that project. Neighbors are furious. No, harm reduction being there's an RV where you can safely use.
Oh, I understand.
And the whole implications of addiction, I used to think that people on methadone stopped using. Actually, I talked to somebody in the know who's a professional in the field and was told probably methadone lowers their usage to 5 times a week.
My understanding of methadone is it's actually harder to kick than heroin itself, right?
Yeah.
I was watching a video this morning, and this one guy said, yeah, it takes me about 8 days or 8 days to kick heroin, right?
Yeah.
And I usually stop, relapse around 3. But methadone's a month of feeling like shit, right?
Yeah.
And I'm lucky I've only ever had withdrawals of alcohol. So, I can't imagine what it'd feel like to go through, the pharmaceutical side of things.
Well, we had one fellow in Vernon that managed to get a bottle of methadone, and it was higher concentration than he was aware of. He drank the bottle and died. And the reason that heroin users tend to like methadone is when they started using, they got a high and came down from the high. When they used repeatedly, the high diminished.
Mm-hmm.
And they then began using to feel normal.
Well, that's the way I always describe even my cannabis use to my wife is like, I use it to feel normal.
I use it to maintain. Now, when you get on methadone, you get some of the high back.
So they use it as like a reset button.
It's like a reset. And a lot of people don't know this about heroin or the addiction process or anything. But so then here's a guy who it's like the love affair with the drug was just, I got to hang on to this to survive. And now it's like, hey, I'm in love again, baby. It's like, whoa. And this guy wants to use 5 times a week. If it's $80 a hit, that's $400 a week, $1,600 a month. How does he get $1,600 a month free cash?
Yeah, I have no idea. I remember watching a documentary about a fentanyl user. I think he was in Vancouver. Vice News was following him, and he calculated, he would have begged and hustled $100,000 and was living on the streets.
Yep.
That's $100,000 funneled straight into pills, straight into little beans, right? And it's mind-boggling.
So if our guy, let's say our hypothetical guy is using, 5 times a week for a month, $1,600 cold hard cash to feed his habit, and he's getting welfare or PWD, his income doesn't match his habit.
Yeah.
His income just pays for rent, right? And so then, where is he getting the money? Crime.
Well, that's where they I think they said there's like 93,000 bikes stolen in June.
Yeah.
No, sorry, that's dollars. $93,000 worth of high-end bikes.
Yeah.
Because Kamloops is a biking town, right?
People love their bikes.
$2,000 to $5,000, and so there's
Yeah.
I was reading in the newspaper, the pop-up of this Facebook group, right, to watch for stolen bikes, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a belief that there's a chop shop of some sort of bike parts or something going on, right? And so that's something I'm certainly interested in trying to find, right?
Pure capitalism at its finest, my friend.
Yeah.
And if they're stealing stuff and boosting it, they're getting 10% value, maybe. So to make $1,400 a month, you got to make 10 times that in a month of theft.
14 grand worth of bikes stolen. So that's, 7 bikes.
And if it's not bicycles, it's high-end electronics, jewelry, irreplaceable stuff that people are sentimentally attached to.
Yeah.
And they're busting into homes. They're freaking people out. And we got to realize this is a controlled user.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're on methadone. They're under treatment, and they're getting their stuff by crime. Now, an uncontrolled user, it's unlimited, like you say, $100,000 in a year, easy. How's he going to get it? He's absolutely desperate. And I'm supportive of harm reduction, and I'm supportive of treatment programs that are medically supervised, professional counseling supervised. But we got to open this up, because organized crime, drug crime, it's a part of our life, and we all fear it. And I earn $1,080 a month. My income is minimal. My output is minimal. If somebody was to break in and steal my computer, it's like my whole volunteer project is gone. My whole chance of turning the magazine into a profit-making enterprise is gone.
That happens, I will figure out a way to get a computer back to you.
So far, so good. And I'm just saying that for an average person making $1 to $2 grand a month, working hard full time, a theft is a devastating impact.
Oh, I can't afford the extra $200-300 my property taxes, right? Like
exactly.
Like we're all the working poor at this point, right? At least in my life, I consider myself the working poor, 100%, right? But I went through the process that we're supposed to go, right? Go to school, get a good degree.
Yeah.
Get a dog, meet a girl, get married, buy a house, have a kid, right? Like I've done that. And
nice.
I'm still the working poor.
Nice. Yeah.
Right? But I still have that dark monkey on my shoulder telling me, hey, yeah, you got beer in your fridge? Oh, yeah. That's why I don't bring beer home, right? So.
Well, and the economic changes in the last 40 years. I remember I was born in the 60s. My dad had one job and fed a family of 6. We didn't go to college, but there were families that had one job, fed a family of 4 to 6, put the kids through college, had a car, had a nice home, paid the mortgage down on a single income. Now, it's double income, no kids. And if you got kids, it's double income and panic.
Yeah.
And I really feel for families, working families, because a wage of $15 an hour doesn't cut it for a family.
Yeah.
If you're both earning $15 or $20 an hour, you can probably feed the kids. But then you got big taxes.
Yeah. Well, I see some hope in my generation, because as much as people say we complain, we also hustle pretty hard, and we're trying to make things the way we're trying to change things. We're not complacent. Well, Greg, it's not even that. It's actually the battery on my little recorder. Even putting fresh batteries into it, because
I'm just using a USB cable you could plug in.
It doesn't work like that, but I'm sure we'll have more chats in the future, right? And we're going on 30 minutes. We're pushing it. So where can people find your project? Where can people get involved if they're interested in learning more?
The big edition is going to be the inaugural issue is going to be in Kamloops this week. So you can get your free copy, and we're going to hustle to make the vendors available on street corners and in parks and any place there are people, shopping malls, if they can get permission. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be out there, and eventually we'll have a website and apps. And
do you have a Facebook page right now? That people,
not yet.
Not
we're
yet.
Gonna.
All
So
right.
we're focused on getting the sample first issue. I've got it about 20% done in a template. So
Awesome.
I'm dumping articles in now.
Yep.
and then we'll do a final critique, and we'll send it off to the printer. So
Awesome.
we're close, and look for the big edition, the Big E, and you'll start to see ways to donate, partner, be vendors. We're recruiting vendors, and we're also, as a side project, we're encouraging busking in all sorts of talent. So we hope to be kind of busking, vending central, and reach our people there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for reaching out there, Graig.
Thank you.
Certainly showing me a different perspective on town, and looking forward to seeing the other perspectives you share in the Big E, and keep a lookout for that coming the next month or two.
Right on.
Awesome. Thanks again, Graig. And that's it for Cameo. If you have a story to share, reach out to me. I'm pretty easy to find. Just look me on up and reach on out, and we'll record a podcast. Always looking to get new perspectives. And much like I shared earlier, if you aren't comfortable putting your name to tell your story, if you're willing to meet with me, you can be anonymous. That's totally fine, right? In the end, it's about sharing perspectives and sharing the interesting stories about Kamloops. And not all stories are happy-go-lucky. Some of them aren't. Some of them are. I want to tell them all with this little podcast called Cameo. So have a great day, and tune in next time. Cheers. Bye-bye.